there is one more pump jack which needs upgrading to tier 2 efficiency modules. Our trusty flamethrower supplying pump jack indeed. And as the bot delivers the modules to the pump jack and we watch the pollution drop from 62 to 60, we have completely converted every last machine in our entire base to be as green as possible. Every single machine is now outputting the absolute minimum pollution possible. But will it be enough? Let's check. The biters are now a complete non-factor in absorbing pollution. And compared to 20 hours ago, when we were absolutely destroying our forest by damaging 440 trees per minute, our efforts have not gone unnoticed and the blue line has drastically dropped down over time. And if we look at just the last hour, we can celebrate the fact that it has been half an hour since a tree took damage from pollution for the last time, which means that we have achieved our goal of eternally sustainable pollution absorption. With no more damage being done to the trees, their pollution absorbing capacity has stopped degrading and they will now sustainably absorb pollution at a constant rate for eternity. That means, while the biters may have never needed us, now we no longer need the biters here either, and this planet is only big enough for one of us. After we finally finished overhauling the whole effing endgame sized base to be as green as possible, we can finally start to make new additions and improvements again. Of course, all builds from now on will have to comply with the new, super strict minimum pollution law, enforcing that every single machine should reach the hard-coded limit of -80% power consumption and pollution generation. The first thing we do is expand the green circuit build to produce a little more than 2 blue belts. We need an almost endless supplies of green chips to make all the red chips, blue chips and tier 1 modules. We can just reroute any overflow on the 2 main belts through 2 extra splitters and lead it to each wagon through the previously unused side of the 1-to-6 splitter. But why do the belts end with unconnected underground belts? Well, an interesting thing is happening again, where the stack inserters cannot seem to keep up when using normal blue belts. The green chips on the right side are backing up now, as you can see, while the stack inserters on the left side are keeping up just fine. My best guess is this probably has to do with the inserters visually needing to be a bit less precise about where exactly they need to pick up each chip, as the underground belt makes the position of each chip a little more fuzzy. Anyway, once we put back undergrounds on the right side too, the green chip traffic jam quickly disappears again, so let's roll on with the undergrounds design. And what a beautiful sight! Of course, to be able to benefit from the extra green chip production, we also upgrade the unloading station to be able to handle up to 3 blue belts. Still only 2 belts travel down the main bus, but the 3rd belt can supply the buffer chests, so the 2 blue belts of green chips going to the main bus can be as full as possible. As we look at our pollution cloud, we see it clearing up everywhere, and especially around our clean green nuclear power machine, the pollution has almost fully cleared up, except for on the last few water tiles, which is the slowest pollution absorber of the natural landscapes. And this is why we detonated atomic bombs on the landfill under the nuclear reactor. Landfill absorbs absolutely 0 pollution, and the last 15 pollution points will never spread from a chunk, so it would keep the nuclear plant under a stationary smog cloud for forever. But thanks to the tiny bit of pollution absorption from the nuclear scorch marks, even that last lingering 15 pollution points are slowly dissipating. Slowly but surely. It will take several more hours, but eventually the skies above our nuclear reactor will be clear and blue again. Then, almost 111 hours in, we are ready to launch the 100th satellite into orbit. And with that, complete the penultimate goal of this playthrough. Our trusty old legacy rocket silo's final launch. Close now, rocket silo. Close soft and gently, never needing to open your gate again. You have done a great job and may rest now. Thank you for each and every one of the 100,000 space science packs you have given us. We shall not deconstruct you, but you will be given a place of honor within our base. A celebratory rail line in a strangely familiar shape. Where did I see that shape before? Where did I see 4 of those shapes before? Right. I see where this is going. I see it and I like it. Of course, that means a whopping 80,000 artillery shells have to be moved over by less than a quarter decimile. So get ready for some pretty bot shots. Mission complete. In the meantime, we have also greened up the artillery shell production. And also these assemblers are now running at the minimum pollution output possible. When it was clear we would have more than enough modules to overhaul the old base, we stopped module production. And when it was clear the minimum pollution concept was likely going to work, we also stopped science production a couple of hours ago. That means during the last few hours the base has become ever more idle, and all the buffers have meanwhile completely filled up. So our base is now in sleep mode, and the pollution of the old base is slowly dissipating. But soon it will be time for this base to wake up and shine in all its green glory. There is only one aspect still missing on the new base: a green-powered science production area. But before we can build the required beacons for the new science area, we need a slight increase in power. And since we have been reinstating a couple ancient parts of the base already, let's continue that pattern and fire up our good old legacy nuclear reactor once more. This time there will be no warm-up time required for the reactor. When we switched off the reactor dozens of hours ago, its power production died as soon as the system dropped below 500 degrees. And it has been at 500 degrees ever since, because there is no such thing as heat loss in Factorio. And that means the very instant nuclear fuel is inserted, steam is being produced and the steam tanks are filling up. And not before long, all steam turbines are smoking with a 100% clean water vapor once more. The base is mostly idle now, but since the lion's share of our power draw comes from beacons, even when the base will be running at full speed later, I'm pretty confident that with this additional 480 megawatts we will provide plenty of power to the base. So far we have used the cheapest 2 projectivity module design for the entire main bus, but for the special occasion of the science production area, let's grab the most expensive design for the maximum productivity bonus possible on all science packs. And yes, it is absurd to use the expensive design on red and green science while using the cheap design for blue chips. But hey, at least this allows us to produce all science packs at exactly the right ratio, which is probably the first time all game I'm doing a big build with a mathematically perfect ratio. Anyway, we are not in the base, but we designed it from the map view in one of the corners of the base without roboport coverage, the ideal location to tinker with designs in peace. But now that the design is finished, let's place it in the real world. Now, you may see some mysterious additional builds left and right in the darkness. We'll get to those soon. As the morning dawn slowly lights up what the bots have been building during their night shift, we can inspect those extra builds from up close. On the right side, we have the non-intermediates required for purple science, and on the left side we have the non-intermediates required for green and military science. Now, all of those items cannot take productivity modules and they are not used for anything else around here, so there was no point really cluttering up the main boss by adding them earlier. But we do want the science production to be independent of whatever happens to be available at the moment at the manufacturing hub, so we built the required end products as dedicated science pack ingredients over here, so we can prioritize science over all else, including the very demanding model production area. So let's task the bots with extending the bus to the far side of the 4 artillery trains and watch the spider struggle to stay in place until eventually he will be swept away by the belts as rootless as a sandcastle by the sea. that will cause a nice, short, full production burst to fill up the now extended belts. So let's see which resources we need to draw off the bus up here in this mess of belts. Let's see: iron plates, iron gears, green chips, stone bricks for walls, iron and coal for grenades, copper and steel for red ammo. Geez, that's quite a lot. We need to draw 7 different resources onto these 5 belts. Well, that means there is no better time than now to show the method to draw resources of a compact bus. So the first belt needs iron and iron gears, which is simple enough. With this simple structure you can draw from 2 adjacent belts on the bus and combine it into one. It even looks cool. Unfortunately, this structure is in the way for taking green chips off the bus, so we come up with a different solution, which is the standard designed to take 2 non-adjacent resources off the bus. Nice, that's 2 belts done. Now we only need stone bricks on the middle belt, and that's easy enough now. On to the last 2 belts. The first needs iron and coal, so we use the standard design for non-adjacent resources again. Unfortunately, that underground coal belt cannot be there, so let's get rid of it and build a standard design for the 2 adjacent resources of copper and steel again. Great! Now we just need to find the least awkward way to route coal back up to join the iron, and we're done. It ends up a little messy, but hey, that's the charm of a compact main bus. And that's all 7 resources we need for green and military signs drawn off the compact bus. Now we just need to fill in the rest of the main bus so all resources can travel further down the bus and we're good to go. By the way, if you were wondering where the second green chip belt is, it got replaced by blue chips. Once the pair of green chip belts supplied both red chips and blue chips, there is no way we will need 2 belts of green chips further down the bus anymore. So the second green chip belt terminates at blue chips, and the blue chips belt takes its place on the main bus, so we can keep it nice and compact. The same is true for the second copper belt, which terminates at the low density structures, which then takes its place. Anyway, enough compact bus theory. Let's switch on some science. First, let's see if this tangled belt mess actually works. Nice! Although in hindsight I should have given a full belt to iron plates instead of green chips, since we need some iron basically everywhere, and green chips only for the inserters. Oh well. But does it work? Well, all 5 ingredients are rolling down the output belts, so let's call it a success. The top 2 belts are for military signs and the bottom belt for green signs. The next 3 science packs require only intermediate products, which we already carry on the main bus. Starting with a simple red signs, a copper plate and an iron gear. Drawing that off the main bus is literally super easy, barely an inconvenience. And this experience of drawing off a compact bus is a lot more representative to the usual situation, unlike the extreme example with the 7 resources we just displayed. Next is blue signs, which requires 3 ingredients on 2 belts. Still simple enough. We draw out the 3 correct belts to visualize what we need, draw sulfur and engines to the first belt, and since we use 2 columns of blue signs, just copy the design to the second column. Then we just need to draw red chips down the 2 middle belts and Bob's Mozzieronti. Then yellow science, the most complicated of them all. Were it not for the fact that we already simply carry the 3 ingredients down the main bus. It is now as simple to hook up as blue science, except we need to do it only once. And finally we get to the real most complicated one. We need to puzzle out another spaghetti sandwich for the 3 purple science ingredients. None of them are intermediate products from the main bus, so we need to produce them locally. Purple science requires a lot of low tier resources in high quantities, so a lot of throughput. But still, I think we can get away with half a red belt for each type. Despite needing to produce iron sticks, rails and electric furnaces all in the same left column, this puzzle was a lot easier as the different belts we need to draw from happen to interfere less with each other. The right column produces only productivity modules from red and green chips, so that should be easy enough. So, not before long, we can switch it all on. The right column produces only productivity modules from red and green chips. The belt spaghetti is happening in the left column. Will all the purple science ingredients start rolling out? Everything seems to be running smoothly, and indeed we've got a belt full of rails and a belt with productivity modules and electric furnaces trickle in. And that means all the science ingredients have been prepared, and we can prepare to turn on the lean green science machine. So we can finally deconstruct the old science assemblers which have been switched off long ago. But since we had no other place to store the chests full of science packs, we just kept it all in place until now. Another giant transport task for the bots. Now, I want science to have absolute priority, and while the dedicated main bus science build should be sufficient to not fail that goal, one must never underestimate the 200-pound gorilla who's operating all the equipment. So we put down some backup requester chests which can fill in any gaps in the science pack supply belts. Unfortunately, our setup is not suited to create a full 100 science per minute. With the standard ratio of science assemblers, the base production at crafting speed 1 is 1 science per second, or 60 science per minute. Our assemblers run at crafting speed 1.125, which means 67.5 science per minute. Then we add in the whopping 40% productivity bonus and we get the final production rate of 94.5 signs per minute for the remainder of the game. Oh well, nice round numbers aren't everything, are they? Are they? Are they? Anyway, the old base's intense pollution has meanwhile mostly dissipated, so now we're producing at full speed again. The pollution cloud should slowly start growing towards its hopefully a lot smaller final form again. In preparation of events soon to come, we decide to send off the 4 brand new artillery trains. Not before long, 1 artillery train is positioned in each of the 4 corners of our base. But why? Nothing is within range, and we already got the land-based artillery turrets to keep enemy expansions in check. What's the big idea here? Oh, I see.